Rush hour at Megamart supermarket. Bright lights, crowded aisles. Vivian Cross, young beautiful CEO in a red business dress, was selecting wine when suddenly two men pressed close. One pressed a small knife against her side. "Don't move or she gets hurt." Customers panicked. Some screamed. Security hadn't reacted yet. At the nearby aisle, Noah Cole, 35, single dad, quietly squeezed his 8-year-old daughter Lily's hand. He twisted the red cord bracelet on his wrist, his voice cutting calmly through the chaos. "You just picked the wrong father and daughter to threaten." The entire supermarket went silent. Vivian turned, eyes wide with shock. Noah Cole lived in the spaces between other people's notice. At 35, he was IT support by day and night security guard 3 evenings a week. Single dad to Lily since his wife died in a car accident 2 years ago. Every dollar counted, every shift mattered, every moment with his daughter was precious. Tonight's Megamart trip was carefully budgeted. Lily sat in the shopping cart, swinging her legs, clutching a piece of paper covered in crooked blue handwriting. Milk, bread, small bear. The bear was underlined 3 times. Her reward for straight A's. The red cord bracelet around Noah's wrist was Lily's creation, braided from yarn during one of his panic attacks after Sarah's funeral. "When you get scared, Daddy, touch the red string and remember to breathe," she'd said. "I made it so you stay calm." He touched it now out of habit. Megamart at rush hour was controlled chaos, the kind of environment where someone could disappear without anyone noticing. Noah hadn't always been invisible. Before Sarah's death, he'd been a respected security training specialist for Port Authority, teaching conflict resolution and crisis management to officers and corporate clients. His expertise in reading body language in diffusing volatile situations had earned him recognition in professional circles. The job paid well, but the hours were unpredictable, sometimes requiring overnight travel for training sessions across the state. After Sarah died, everything changed. Lily needed stability, routine, a father who was present rather than just financially providing. So Noah had traded his prestigious position for predictable hours. IT support during school days and night security at a local business park 3 evenings a week when his in-laws could watch Lily. The career change meant a significant pay cut, but it gave him what mattered most: time with his daughter. The panic attacks had started a month after the funeral. They would strike without warning, his heart racing, breath caught in his lungs, the world narrowing to a pinpoint. The first time it happened, Lily had found him hunched over in the hallway, gasping for air. Instead of being frightened, she'd simply taken it in hand and placed it over her heart. "Feel my breathing, Daddy," she'd whispered. "Slow, like mine." The next day, she presented him with the red bracelet, her small fingers carefully braiding the yarn while explaining that red was the color of courage and love. Noah's training had taught him to manage crisis situations, but his daughter had taught him how to breathe through his own. That's when he saw her, Vivian Cross, red business dress, designer heels, moving through the wine section with practiced arrogance. CEO of Cross Tech Industries, where Noah had done contract IT work 6 months ago. She treated him like furniture then, complained to her assistant about the slow internet guy within his earshot. When Noah's equipment cart accidentally brushed her desk, she'd snapped, "Be careful. You damage something expensive, you'll be paying it off forever." And the humiliation had been complete and casual, another invisible worker dismissed by someone who mattered. Now here she was, selecting wine that cost more than Noah's weekly grocery budget. "Daddy, look at the bears," Lily pointed at a stuffed animal display. "After we get milk and bread, sweetheart." That's when Noah noticed them. 2 men, mid-30s, moving through the store with purpose. They weren't shopping. Their eyes tracked Vivian's movement, positioning themselves to intercept her path. The coordination was subtle but unmistakable. When Vivian moved toward the wine section, they split up. One went to the aisle's end, the other circled to approach from the opposite direction. Military precision disguised as casual browsing. Noah's security training kicked in. These weren't opportunistic criminals. This was planned. He maneuvered his cart closer while keeping Lily occupied with her shopping list. The men communicated through subtle gestures, head nods, hand signals. Professional criminals with a specific target. When the taller man adjusted his jacket, Noah glimpsed what he was carrying: a utility knife. Small, retractable blade, meant to intimidate, not kill, but dangerous enough. "Daddy, why are those men watching the pretty lady?" Lily whispered. Noah's blood chilled. If his 8-year-old could see the threat, it was already too late for subtlety. The men were closing in. Vivian, oblivious, continued examining wine labels. Other customers moved through their routines, unaware that a crime was about to unfold in broad fluorescent lighting. Noah squeezed the red cord bracelet, feeling its rough texture against his skin, a reminder of what mattered most: protecting innocent people, especially his daughter, from the violence that some people brought into ordinary spaces. He'd walked away from security work after Sarah died, choosing IT contracts and part-time shifts that let him be present for Lily. But training didn't disappear. Instincts didn't fade. The ability to read dangerous situations and respond appropriately, that stayed with you. "Lily, keep looking at your list for me, okay?" he said quietly. "Are we in trouble, Daddy?" "No, baby, but someone else might be, and Daddy needs to help." She nodded solemnly, the way children do when they sense adult seriousness without understanding its full weight. Noah positioned their cart strategically, giving himself clear sightlines and potential resources. Some trips to the supermarket were about groceries. Others were about preventing someone from getting hurt. As Noah continued observing, a flicker of recognition crossed his face. The shorter of the two men, there was something familiar about his movements, the way he scanned the environment. Noah had seen those mannerisms before, in training sessions he'd conducted years ago. The realization hit him with unexpected force. Jason Mercer, former security professional who'd attended Noah's conflict management course at Port Authority. He'd been promising, attentive, asking intelligent questions about threat assessment. What was he doing here, clearly coordinating a planned attack? The last Noah had heard, Mercer had lost his job due to budget cuts. He had a wife and young son, had shown Noah photos during a lunch break, proudly describing his boy's little league achievements. How had he gone from dedicated security professional to this? The recognition added a layer of complexity to Noah's mental calculations. He now knew the capabilities of at least one attacker. Mercer had been skilled at physical intervention techniques, but his real strength had been in situation control and crowd psychology, dangerous in a public setting. Noah's pulse quickened, but his outward demeanor remained calm. He drew a deep breath, fingers brushing against Lily's red bracelet. The knowledge of Mercer's identity made intervention more complex. This wasn't just about stopping unknown assailants. This was about confronting someone who had fallen from the same professional world Noah had once inhabited. "There but for the grace of God," a voice whispered in his mind. In the brief moment Noah spent processing this realization, the attackers had moved into position. Mercer stationed himself at the end of the wine aisle, casually examining a bottle while maintaining clear sightlines to his partner. The taller man approached from the opposite direction, timing his steps to intercept Vivian as she reached for an expensive champagne bottle. Noah glanced at Lily, ensuring she was distracted by her shopping list, then made a quick decision. He couldn't leave, couldn't just call security and hope they responded in time. Not when he recognized the precision in the attacker's movements, the practiced coordination that suggested they'd done this before. Not when his 88-year-old daughter might witness violence if things escalated. And not when he recognized one of the attackers as a man who had once sat in his classroom, learning the very techniques he was now employing for criminal purposes. Noah had spent 2 years retreating from the world after Sarah's death, focusing his entire existence on providing stability for Lily. He'd stepped back from confrontation, from risk, from the unpredictability that had once been part of his professional life. But some skills couldn't be unlearned. Some instincts couldn't be suppressed, especially when innocent people were in danger. "Lily," he said softly, "I need you to do something very important for me, okay?" She looked up, blue eyes serious. "Like a mission?" Despite the tension coiling in his chest, Noah smiled. "Exactly like a mission. I need you to stay right here with the cart and count all the red things you can see around you. Don't move until I come back." "But what about our groceries?" "This is more important than groceries right now. Can you be my brave girl and do this for me?" Lily nodded solemnly. "I can count really high." "I know you can, sweetheart." Noah positioned the cart near a display of paper products, partially shielded from the wine aisle. Stay right here and remember our rule about strangers. Don't talk to them, and if anyone tries to make me go somewhere, scream really loud. That's my smart girl. Noah straightened, took a deep breath, and moved toward the wine section. Years of training had taught him to read environments for resources and threats. The supermarket offered both in abundance: glass bottles that could shatter, slick floors that could cause falls, narrow aisles that limited movement but also created choke points, civilian bystanders who could become collateral damage. He approached from an angle that allowed him to maintain visual contact with both Lily and the developing situation. The timing would be critical. Too early, and he might escalate a situation that could still be diffused. Too late, and Vivian Cross might be injured or worse. As Noah moved closer, his mind was calculating distances, angles, potential reactions. What was Mercer's objective here? Simple robbery seemed unlikely given the coordination and target selection. Kidnapping? Possible. Corporate espionage? Most likely given Vivian's position and the professional nature of the operation. The attack came with practiced precision. Vivian had just selected an expensive bottle of champagne when the two men closed in from opposite ends of the wine aisle. The taller one moved first, pressing against her left side while his partner, Mercer, blocked her escape route. "Don't make a sound," the tall man whispered, something sharp pressing against her ribs through the red fabric. "Walk with us toward the back exit, nice and quiet." The champagne bottle slipped from Vivian's fingers, shattering against the floor with a sound that cut through the ambient supermarket noise like a gunshot. Customers nearby turned to look, saw the broken glass and the knife now visible against Vivian's dress, and began to scatter, but not to help, to avoid getting involved. "Please," Vivian's voice cracked with panic as she scanned the faces around her. "Someone help me." The response was immediate and heartbreaking. People looked away, grabbed their children closer, pretended they hadn't seen anything. One woman with a full cart actually laughed. "Looks like the rich lady's having problems. Maybe if she wasn't so high and mighty all the time, someone might actually care." Another customer nodded. "I recognize her from the news. Crosstech CEO, always talking about cutting costs and laying people off." The humiliation stung almost as much as the fear. Vivian had spent years cultivating an image of power and control. Now she was reduced to begging strangers for help while they debated whether she deserved it. Meanwhile, Noah was calculating. The supermarket's layout favored the attackers. The wine section connected to a service corridor that led to the loading docks, perfect for extraction. The narrow aisles limited response options. Security cameras had blind spots near the service areas. But the criminals had made tactical errors too. Their utility knives were intimidation tools, not weapons. The retractable blades would fold under pressure in a real struggle. They were focused entirely on controlling Vivian, with no awareness of their surroundings or potential threats. Most critically, they were operating during peak family shopping hours, with children everywhere. Professional criminals should have avoided the collateral complications. Noah quietly repositioned himself while keeping visual contact with Lily, who was diligently counting red objects from her stationary position by the paper towels. "Can we get my bear now, Daddy?" she called out, still clutching her shopping list. "In just a minute, sweetheart. Keep counting for me." The attackers were moving Vivian toward the service corridor, using the crowd's reluctance to intervene as cover. Store security was nowhere visible, probably dealing with some minor crisis in electronics or dealing with a shoplifter, leaving this section unmonitored. That's when disaster struck in the most innocent way possible. Lily's small brown teddy bear, the small bear from her shopping list that she'd been clutching, tumbled out of her hand and rolled directly into the path of the lead attacker. He looked down, annoyed, and kicked it aside with unnecessary force. "Keep your kid's junk out of the way," he snarled at Noah. The comment was casual cruelty, the kind of dismissive rudeness that powerful people showed toward those they considered beneath notice, but it was also a critical mistake. Lily's face crumpled, not just because her toy had been mistreated, but because a bad man had been mean to her daddy. She'd seen enough adults dismiss Noah to recognize the pattern, and it always made her shaken and angry. "That man was mean to you, Daddy," she whispered, loud enough for nearby customers to hear. The observation carried unexpected weight. Several shoppers who'd been avoiding this situation suddenly focused on Noah and Lily, a single father with his young daughter, now being threatened by the same criminals terrorizing the CEO. The dynamic shifted. This wasn't just about Vivian Cross anymore. It was about whether decent people would stand by while criminals hurt a family. But Noah was already moving beyond emotion into tactical assessment. He'd identified his resources: a display of soda bottles that could serve as projectiles, a mop bucket near the customer service desk containing soapy water, paper towels that could be used for restraint or distraction. Most importantly, he'd mapped the lighting angles that would give him advantages without endangering bystanders. The lead attacker was getting impatient with Vivian's resistance. "Move faster, lady, or this gets messy for everyone around here." The threat was clear: hurt the CEO, terrorize the witnesses, escape in the chaos. Classic intimidation escalation when the initial plan hit resistance. "Lily, baby," Noah said quietly, positioning himself between his daughter and the developing crisis. "I need you to close your eyes and count to 20 for Daddy. Is everything okay?" "Everything's going to be okay, but I need you to stay right here and not look until I tell you." He touched the red cord bracelet one final time, feeling the rough texture of his daughter's handiwork. A reminder of what mattered most, what he was willing to protect, and what kind of man he chose to be when violence came to ordinary places. The attackers had made their choice. They'd brought weapons into a space filled with families. They'd threatened an innocent woman. They'd been cruel to his daughter. Now they were about to learn that some fathers were more dangerous than they appeared. "You just picked the wrong father and daughter to threaten," Noah said, his voice cutting clearly through the noise and panic. Every conversation in the supermarket